Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of A New Go of New Home Sales. I'm your host, Anya Chrysanthemum, and joining me today is my dear friend, John Galante, president of AE Ventures. So, John, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to finally have you on.
It's great to be with you, Anya. I follow your exploits on social media, and you're everywhere. You're like an electron. I never know where you're going to pop up, but it's a pleasure to be on your show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll take that as a compliment. So, John, many of our listeners may not know you, or they may not know all the events that you produce. So before we actually get into that, I would love to hear your story, because you've been in home building industry for many years and you wore many hats throughout the time. But one thing stayed constant is that you've always been a visionary when it comes to pushing home building forward into a tech savvy era. So I would love to hear more about your mission, your story. How did you get into this? And tell us what you do now.
Sure, I'll try to keep it relatively brief, but it's a long story. I've spent most of my professional career in this space, not necessarily the home building space, but the installed technologies, premises technology space, starting in the late 80s with Reed Exhibition Companies. One of the events that I worked on there was the International Security Conference. And that was a trade show for mostly security dealers and integrators and the manufacturers of the component technologies that they put together into systems. While I was there, I actually started poking around on the concept of home automation. It was kind of an adjacent space to what I was working on. But at any rate, I got interested at that point. I left Reed Exhibition Companies to become executive director of the Security Industry Association. So that's the trade association that represents the manufacturers. Then I moved over to what's now known as the Consumer Technology Association. And I worked more on the integrated home systems and home automation stuff there. Had about 5 years in not-for-profit, which was enough for an entrepreneur to get aggravated and aggravate a lot of board members. So then I moved on back into the for-profit world with Media. I was the editor-in-chief of Custom Electronics Professional Magazine. I launched their event business. We had some really successful trade shows. And I also launched a publication called TecHome Builder as the founding editor and publisher in 2001. And then in 2008, a few things happened. One is I decide to spin off some assets and people with me and form AE Ventures. TecHome Builder goes on ice because we're at the beginning of the Great Housing Depression, not the housing Great Recession, because we went from building 1 million single family homes a year to 300,000, and we stayed there for 4 or 5 years. So nobody wanted to buy advertising in the trade publication, The Builders, in 2008 and for many years thereafter. But what I did do when I spun out of Publishing is I acquired the assets to TecHome Builder, the database, the brand, the content. And then when the market started to recover in 2013, we relaunched TecHome Builder. We launched a bit of a digital footprint. And most importantly, we launched the hosted style event, TecHome Builder Summit, which we have been working on perfecting since we started doing them in 2008. So TecHome Builder Summit has been around since 2014. In the spring of 2014, we produced the first event. When we relaunched TecHome Builder, we were pretty much purely focused on the home technology piece of the equation, but it had gotten much broader than just the electronics over the years. Technology is now present in the HVAC and indoor air quality space, and the electrical system and lighting and major appliances, even plumbing fixtures. So it's become a much broader set of applications. But we still have that brand identity, brand equity with the solution providers. So we started to have solutions segments, which you were a participant in for a couple of years, Anya, alongside TecHome Builder. And then last year, we decided, let's not make the solutions piece kind of the afterthought next to the home technology. Let's figure out a way to build an event where it's more central. And that is the Housing Transformation Summit that we launched last December, where I would say the digital solutions piece is co-stars with a broad landscape of product vendors and finishes, structures, and systems. And housing transformation is about digital transformation. It's about re-engineering those relationships between the vendors of all the products so that we can get new stuff into homes more quickly, so that it's ready for digital transformation, as in the digital marketing assets to help tell the story of why those products are powerful to the consumer, to fit into digital design centers, to even handle the downstream functions like design, supply chain management, and production more efficiently.
So what a time to spin off and to launch your own companies. I mean, talk about 2001, 2008. So John, do you see a little bit of a parallel between 2001 as well as 2008? As far as 2001 goes, the dot-com boom, all the money flowing into tech, and then massive layoffs, everything kind of evaporating overnight to what we're seeing right now.
Well, I hope we're not going to have a recession and massive layoffs. I hope, nothing is smooth since COVID. There are all of these seismic shocks. Everyone knew was not sustainable, the demand that builders were seeing for new homes, especially not sustainable with the supply chain issues that were out there. But I think for our purposes, for what we do, we're going to see more builders interested in the add-on amenities, on the special feature sets, versus just putting up four walls, a door, and a roof, and being able to sell a house. I think we'll be returning to a more competitive mindset, where hopefully we do a better job for the consumer because of that. And I'm still rooting for that. I mean, I saw the interview with Jerry Howard yesterday, and he said a recession's nobody really knows, right? Nobody really knows how these inflation shocks might be tamed. There's still this massive employment, right? We're at 3.6% unemployment. So we still got workforce, and employers are still adding jobs, and jobs are usually the predictors of the longer term need for commercial real estate development and residential development. So until we start seeing shocks in the job market, I'm still hopeful for the home building industry, in addition to the fact that we've got 4 million units short because we didn't build for 5 years. We're 4 million units short of what's really needed in inventory. So I feel like home building's still in a good place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely going to be a changing market. I just got back from Jeff Shure Leadership Summit in Austin, Texas, and I spoke with many, many home builders, and I think every single one of them said that they're definitely seeing a shift in their local market, except for a couple of exceptions. And that's just the reality of the new norm. And you're so right that the way we sell homes is going to need to change. And certainly learning from you and what you guys are doing is going to give you a big advantage over your competition. So we talked a little bit about the differences of TecHome Builder versus the Housing Transformation event. But for both events, can you talk about the way the event's structured? What makes you different from other events?
I think in terms of mission, we do want to be a catalyst. We want to help drive progress and not just reflect the market, but give the market a kick in the pants on some of this stuff, because it's hard to do, it's not familiar, and they need that sort of inspiration and coercion. The common thread across both events, Anya, is that they're for innovators, right? If you're not interested in innovation, if you're not interested in doing new things or doing things differently, spending 48 hours with us in this immersive format is like torture. So it kind of self-qualifies to innovative companies. And let me talk more about the format. So We use what we call a hosted style format for our events. Nancy, my business partner, and I learned it from a couple of ex-Gartner guys back in the late 2000s. And we've been kind of refining our own version of it ever since. Hosting means that we're offering this great executive experience, 48 hours, immersion in the topics, high quality contact for our guests with the vendors, very substantive, high quality contact. And we cover their flights, their hotel, their registration, food and beverages provided throughout the event. So their out-of-pocket expenses are virtually nothing. We do, in recognition of those benefits, request and actually secure agreements from our guests that they will attend from start to finish and that they'll follow a detailed itinerary that we lay out for them, which includes a mix of general session presentations, boardroom presentations, which are 35-minute small group presentations from the sponsors, and 15-minute one-on-one meetings in an exhibit, not speed dating setup that, really uncomfortable, but that trade show, small format trade show sort of format where everybody's familiar and comfortable and you can bring product into the equation. And it's more than just a one-on-one conversation if it needs to be. So it's a highly efficient format. What the guests get in addition to this program and everything kind of being pre-planned for them is the vendors who meet with them have studied up on the individual and the company. So they have an extremely substantive and efficient conversation. That's worth a lot because if you think about the standard trade show interaction, it's 8 minutes long and probably half of that time is spent trying to figure out who's who on both sides of the equation. So they cover a bunch more ground. It's not just about the show for us. We really like to work with both our sponsors and guests on planning participation, being purposeful, having your needs identified in writing and trying to work to accomplish them when you're at the event, being effective on site at the event for the guests to capture the ideas and the contacts in writing and then most important, none of this matters if you don't do anything with it. So what happens after the event, right? We're constantly pushing the vendors to identify next steps that are of interest to the prospective clients that they're meeting with. And we're encouraging our guests to go back, prioritize the ideas that they came across and form tiger teams, guiding coalitions to absorb that and to work with us to get more information or to expand the circle of information so they can actually implement. That's our making it count part of the equation. So it's a pretty different animal. We're really positioned against the trade show as what we like to call the antidote to the risk, waste, and confusion of the trade show, which was invented in the 1850s, right? Before we could know all this stuff about the people that we're about to connect with. But I think there are other hosted event organizers in the builder space. We have a different formula than them, right? We have more content, we have more drive to try to overcome some of these vexing problems in the spaces that we serve. We have the focus on home technology and transformation, which is pretty unique. And, our style of the event with the mix of the boardrooms and the one-on-one meetings and the exhibit is different. We think it's the best, but we're biased.
Well, if you guys have been following me, you know that I've been part of both events. And I had an opportunity to do a lot of one-on-one interviews during these events with both the vendors who attend the events, who sponsor these events, as well as the attendees, the home builders. And I can tell you firsthand that the feedback was overwhelmingly positive from, vendors loved the format. They really felt like it was superior to other trade shows where they were getting much more meaningful interactions with the clients, with the prospects. And then the home builders also felt like they were really immersed in this experience and we're able to learn about so many different products all in one place. And that's what I always tell home builders. If you are looking to improve your customer service, if you're looking to improve the types of products you're offering, but you don't want to waste a whole lot of time, it just makes sense to attend this, because again, in the 48 hours, you're going to meet so many great companies that are all on the same mission, essentially. And so you can really kill, I don't know how many birds with one stone, but
Lots of birds.
yes.
I think one of our differentiators too, Anya, is that there is a lot of product information and a lot of that comes through in the vendor boardroom presentations and such, but we have a good dollop of process related advice and information, right? And we've got to get on home tech, we've got to get the process right as well as the products. We really need better processes for selling, marketing, designing, installing, onboarding the customer, the ownership experience. We need better collaborations between the builders, the manufacturers, and the contractors to get that stuff all right. We know the buyer wants it. Now we got to deliver it the right way where everybody can make some money along the way, but most importantly, the consumer can get great value and a great experience. And I think, processes is really important on the transformation side of things, right? That's the heart of what we're trying to do with the product vendors is like, all right, if we get a builder to say, I'm not going to go for last year's stuff at 20% less. I'm actually going to embrace the innovation. What's your obligation, vendor, on your side to actually make that work for the builder? So it's not just the product, right? It's those sales and marketing assets, particularly the digital sales and marketing assets. It's how you can train their subs or matchmake with new subs that can do the work. It's how do you support the ownership experience? So you've got to tend to all that stuff in order for the builder to feel good about going faster with innovation. So a lot of that's about, the process for developing the terms for the relationship between the vendor and the builder. So process is huge for us as well as product.
And obviously, I was very fortunate to be able to participate in those events where I had an opportunity to interview and pull together the panels. And so one of the things I was really impressed with was that some of the builders who you have amazing relationships with, they've been in your sphere for so many years. So they are really leading the way when it comes to technology, and how open they were to share this information with the rest of their peers, because they really don't see them as competitors. They really, time and time again, they told me they see the resale homes as the main competition, not other home builders. So they're really willing to share that information openly. And I think you're dead on when you say that it's not just about the products, but it is about the implementation. And with how quickly everything changes, again, why reinvent the wheel where you can learn from somebody who's been doing it consistently, and they have the relationships and they have the processes in place, and they can help you very quickly on board and improve your process going forward. Yeah. So John, the last TecHome Builder event was in Louisville, which I was so jealous because I wasn't able to attend that event, and it looked like so much fun. It was right after the races or during the races, right? So
it was right after the Derby. It was the week after the Derby,
Yes, I was definitely green with missing out, envy, whatever you want to call it. It looked
that
like
was a great Derby too.
So talk to us a little bit about that last event. And what were some of the takeaways, some of the biggest themes that you've experienced from talking to home builders, as far as what they're looking for, some of the concerns, and then what are some of the biggest innovations coming from the vendor side that we should be paying attention to?
Well, this is going to sound a little repetitive on the process front, but I do think it was our best event ever in terms of the quality of the content and the importance of the content. I like to say we're at the end of the beginning of the middle with home technology and builders. We've got a lot of folks that get they need to do something. We just don't have a lot of builders that are doing it right. I was the chair for the high volume track. One of my themes there was don't punt. right? Is just that don't do the bare minimum and don't do the customer wrong because you don't have the time to do it right. It was like, don't punt. And I would say, don't punt on things like, I'll get into an application trend, which is, I think we really, both builders and the industry have done a horrible job on, is work from home. The builders default play on work from home is get an extra bedroom. This is this huge demographic trend. Why wouldn't you show a home office that's not just about traditional sit down at the computer, but about what you and I are doing, right? Which is like the norm for so many people, is they need to have a great studio presence for video conferencing, whether it's, zooming into their own office or whether they're zooming out to clients. But, so many of us have jerry-rigged work from home or home studio situations with wires all over the place. And how do I pull that shade down and get the light right? I mean, all of that stuff could be pre-engineered into an office. And not that the builder would show all of it, sell all of it, but they should show it all and they would win. They would win buyers versus other builders. They would win buyers versus used houses. It's like somebody said, I could sit down here and push a button and have it all convert from my computing, thinking, dreaming time to now I'm on stage. It's just total punt, right? So hopefully we can get, more folks to do that the right way. Another big theme that I've been pushing for a year and a half is designing the technology in. And this applies on the Lux custom space as well as the high volume space. The reality is, on the high volume space in particular, the way the systems are designed in is a bird's eye is handed to a technology integrator, and then they put some stickums on the bird's eye, say where the stuff's going to be. And it's because the technology, there's no technology plan construction drawings required from the authorities that approve the home buildings. They need mechanical, they need electrical, they need plumbing, they need structural, but they don't need technology. So technology gets left out of the mix. So we don't get electricity to the right spots to feed the electronics. So we don't have the right spaces and pathways. So we don't actually have efficient installation of the systems because they end up coming in later in the game, and you get the equivalent of a retrofit wire pull when all of the wiring should have been done. But if it's not designed in, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen at the right point. So I am pushing really hard for what I call MEPT, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and technology, getting technology in the construction drawing. So more efficiency, better profit sharing for all the different partners, and a better outcome for the buyer. I'm pushing for, Anya, I talked a little bit about this, it's just like the crazy ant in the basement is a lot of people don't know how to use their systems or operate them wrong. It's because they're not trained and onboarded with them. So we need the right onboarding so people get full use out of the systems. And then we need a great, the longer term connection to the system. And technology is one of the few areas where the trade contractors want to maintain a relationship after the fact. We've got a thing called monitoring, which really tracks the health of the product and the user's experience. That's been denigrated for the past few years because I don't want to pay for the monitor. Well, you should pay for the monitoring because it actually subsidizes maintaining a quality system. So those were the sorts of process issues or big picture issues that I think we tackled this year, in Louisville better than we ever have. And we'll continue along those lines when we get to our Phoenix event and sprinkle in, the exciting new technology and applications as well.
Yeah, I think when it comes to technology in the home, there's just so many exciting innovations that are taking place right now. And with COVID, people are really starting to rethink the way we live in our homes. And I get so excited when I hear about, all the sensors that we have in our systems that can tell you that you have a water leak way before the water leak is visible,
Yeah.
or systems that save us water, energy, especially in some of the places like California and Arizona. It's so important. When everybody else goes off the grid, you can still have a comfortable home and not be affected by rolling blackouts or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think that IoT piece for preventative maintenance or, alerts to catastrophic potential happenings is on the rise for sure. We've got a whole set of home ownership apps that are arriving, not just for the technology, but for everything that's in the house that needs to be maintained and that we need to have a good record of in order to maintain the whole asset. And I see a marriage between IoT sensors and this. So we get out of just when is the likely time for repair or maintenance on something. We could have sensors that tell us on a real-time basis based on usage or weather or whatever, whether maintenance is required. I think that's coming. I think that comes with a hub. It comes with a cloud-based connectivity to the home that can monitor and track and communicate with the consumer on that, and also with field service providers to get that work done. So that's an interesting, maybe more like mid-decade to later area that I think that would start to become an important application. And I'll just go a little deeper down that rabbit hole. That I think that there's an intersection with this idea of technology being there at the early stages of the design process and being alongside these other contractors, because they want to have that relationship post occupancy. Most of the other subcontracting trades, they're new construction only, and they don't want to keep the relationship, right? So if this technology integrator can collect the as-built home data on the plans as we go, they could also be the folks that serve up home ownership apps along with the home operating system app in terms of the technology, and really be on point for some of that aftermarket work to be done. So that's something else that we're poking around on. It's a little more visionary than some of the other topics that I talked about, but I think that's going to come.
And it's just so much opportunity for home builders to increase that lifetime value of their clients and maintain that relationship with them and be that provider afterwards. And I know companies like Lowe's are already launching the apps where, think about a digital copy of your home, right? You go into Lowe's and it tells you exactly what kind of filter you need for your HVAC system because it knows the exact model you have. So that's
we let's think about the digital transformation piece, right? If we're using digital design centers, we're building a database of all the stuff that's in that home. We don't have to go and re-enter all of that stuff, right? We can just flow it through. If we get the right APIs, we can flow it through into home ownership apps. And, if we also are tracking individual buyers' journey, what they looked at, what they were interested in, what they put on their wish list that they didn't buy, and we know the as-built home, we're in a position to make offers to those folks that would be extremely attractive because we have all of that information, but we have not figured out how to get that information to flow through, what the relationships are on the post-close side of things to enable that sort of commerce. But it's sitting there, right? It's sitting there and it's a huge chunk of money.
Yeah, you figure it's more valuable than your Amazon data because this is like your life data, right? Like this is how I want to live my life. Like the choices that I made in my new home tell a whole lot about who I am as a person and about my choices, about my lifestyle and what kind of things you can sell to me. So it's a huge monetization opportunity right there. So speaking of the digital side, obviously the next housing transformation event, which Inugo is going to be part of, so I'm really excited. Is it coming up in December in Seattle, I think, right? So talk to me a little bit about that side, what are some of the trends that you're seeing? And what are some of the things that you're most excited for that event?
I guess let's start with digital solutions. I think we're continuing to see a lot of strong interest in even post-COVID on the kind of top of the funnel digital sales and marketing tool sets, right? That and we're excited to have Zillow at the event. So maybe and to see, more activity from builders on the listing side of things to present themselves a little more powerfully than they have historically on the listing side of things and get that buyer very early in the buying process. I think we had an exemplar on the virtual models side of things in Ken Peterson and Shay Holmes. They're making the business case for that investment, right? Because it's a hell of a lot cheaper to build these digital models than it is to build physical models, and they can be kept up to date and they can be modified to what we're learning about what's of interest and the trends. And it's like, so it's maybe not about not building any models, but it might be about building a single model or two to get the fit and finish stuff across to a buyer, but then really relying more on virtual models to do your selling and get that selling done more quickly, right? So that you're not waiting for models to go up to start selling homes, you're selling them based on the virtual model. So that I think is, we've hit the knee of the curve on that one. I would expect there's going to be a lot more interest there. I consider the Digital Design Center kind of the heart and soul of transformation because it connects the front end sales and marketing stuff and customer experience stuff with the back end of the production. I think the supply chain management piece, which is another more visionary piece of this, but it's right at the center, right? And we have to get beyond good cataloging to better serving up of experiential information. There's like, we're talking about the technology products, right? It's not like swatches of, finishes of cabinetry or countertops. It's when you're trying to sell the value of that, whether you've included it as a standard or it's an option, the experience needs to be represented digitally with storytelling. And I think that's where we've got a lot of work to do in Digital Design Center to be able to pop up the experiential information, appropriately at the right time, in the right time frame, so that people consume that stuff better, so it can become a more fully figured platform for selling everything we put in homes. So I think that's an area to do some work. And I mentioned the supply chain management piece. I think it was Rahm Emanuel, who was Obama's chief of staff, said, never let a good crisis go to waste. Supply chain has been a crisis area for the last couple of years. Part of the solution is digitization there, right? So that if we could get to what CAD means in discrete product manufacturing to start to happen in home building, where at these early phases of design, the data on what pieces and parts are needed at a job site by when, at what price, percolates up the supply chain, and we're able to get firm hold on inventory to do the building. It would be a dream come true. I have no delusions that it's going to be easy because we have a fractured set of supply chain players, but maybe the crisis will spur more activity there. It's something we're going to try to address in the program for sure.
Yeah, I truly believe that, at some point, hopefully sooner than later, we're going to be looking back and saying, my God, how did we build homes before this? Right? Like we're basically like blindfolded guessing. Yeah, that's big mission here for us at Inugo. And that's why we're trying to digitize the process of buy now so that you do have immediate feedback. It's like airline seats, once that seat's taken, you see exactly where you are with your financials.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that, it hasn't happened before this, but
Yeah.
home building industry is not exactly the first to adapt to change. And I'm so glad that we have you in the industry to really pioneer and to push our industry forward, because somebody needs to do that. So I'm really, really excited for that.
Form of masochism, Anya.
Yes, 100%, 100%. So, John, if anybody wants to learn about your company, the events, I will be sure to link both the TecHome Builder as well as the Housing Transformation Summit information in the show notes. Again, I will be personally attending the event in December in Seattle. Really, really look forward to it. And you guys know, I always get really excited about technology. I mean, the technology in the home lights me up, but the digital side of how we can use digital marketing to help us sell homes faster, more efficient, at a better price. I mean, that stuff just, live and breathe this, and that's the stuff that really gets me excited.
Well, we appreciate your leadership on those topics too. You're a great facilitator and educator on those topics, so you'll be on the program. Just you wait. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's easy to do it when it's something that, they say you never work on a day in your life when you're doing something you truly love. And this is the stuff that really lights me up. So I'm very, very fortunate to have people like you in my life. And you've always been so generous with your relationships and with all the knowledge, and really grateful for that. So
no problem. In addition to the websites, people can call me on my mobile phone anytime. I might not pick up anytime, but my mobile number is 703-585-2148. And you can email me to jgalante, JGALANTE at ae-ventures.com. So don't hesitate to contact me personally if you want to jibber jabber about this stuff.
I will be sure to link those in the show notes as well. So get ready for your phone to blow up.
Oh, I hope so.
Well, John, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. I really appreciate you coming on to share this information with us. And I will strongly encourage anyone who is looking for improving the way, not only the way you sell homes, but what types of the stuff you're putting in the home to improve your customer experience, not only from the buying perspective, but also from the living perspective. You've got to be part of these events. I can personally tell you, you're gonna get a lot of value out of it. So John, thank you so much for being here today. And I hope we can catch up again, hopefully very soon. And, when we can talk about some of those things that you mentioned becoming a reality.
Very good. Anya, thank you so much. Appreciate your time and insights too.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.